smokes, I'm no joke out the bullpen. Bringing nothing but heat, leave you hanging like clothespins. He's a beast when he goes in, ice cold frozen. The first round draft pick, number one chosen. Drop bombs, explosion, self-promotion. And I keep shit moving like a flanker in motion. I'm the number one spokesman, it's my devotion. That I'm dedicated to the rhyme is my own notion. Brown water's the potion, it put hair on your chest. Or you can put one in the air and it'll put you to rest. Sweet dreams, I'm about to fade. I got my mind on my money and I'm dreaming about getting this all paid. Mr. Go-Getter, Mr. Assertive, Mr. Initiative, Mr. Results, man, I'm all about my business, kid. Damn.
All about business on a suddenly not so casual Thursday evening in September. It is September 28, 2023. Thursday Night Football, Week 4. Circa Millions, the show, the Shark and the Gun, live on YouTube and X. Sharky Waters Nation, 9 words of lifestyle. Ride the wave or get out of the water. Guns picks. I'm fired up. First show of the week. What's going on tonight, brother?
Yeah, the Thursday night specials have been red hot for us. Listen, we swept the board yesterday. I gave you Georgia State, gave you the money line, and I gave you the under on that one. That was 3 for 3. So we continue the ride of hotness in prime time, and we're going to continue this momentum into the Thursday night special. Detroit on the road, divisional game versus Green Bay. I think we have a little bit of alignment on this game. Let's get to it.
Big time stuff. NFC North, what not waiting around. 8:15 p.m. Amazon Prime. Lambeau Field, road, clubhouse, locker room, whatever you want to call it. The Gun, the first and collaboration official of this broadcast.
Yeah, I can't get off of Detroit on this one. Well, I got it locked in a couple nights ago at -1.5. It's going to be a 2-unit play for me. Listen, look where Detroit's coming from. They're coming off a 28-6 domination of the Atlanta Falcons at home, and also dominating the net yardage battle, 175 for the game. Now you have Green Bay coming off that massive comeback win. They were down 18-0 I think it's 17-0 at one point. Winning the game by a point. Killing a lot of people if you got the closing line there on New Orleans. But if you got the +2 or the +1.5 myself, you catch the ticket. There are +88 net yards for that game. Absolute collapse. Derek Carr losing, getting hurt in that game, and Jameis Winston doing Jameis things, losing the game on that one. But, look at Green Bay just altogether. Offense just has been completely stale. They're ranked 22nd in yards per game, 16th in the passing yards per attempt, 26th in rushing yards per carry. They also rank near the bottom as far as completion rate is concerned. They're ranked 31st, giving up, with Jordan Love only completing 53.1% of his passes. Green Bay also ranked near the bottom in the offensive defensive opponent net season average, ranked 24th on defense and 28th on offense. What I mean by that is when you go against them, you perform above your numbers against them on the defensive side and the offensive side. When you look at defense, Detroit's offense ranked near the top in a lot of key categories for me. All right, 8th in offensive yards per game, 381 yards per game. 4th in passing yards per attempt, 24th in rushing yards per carry. 6th in pass completion rate. They're putting up 69.9% completion rate with Jared Goff. And then you got to look at compare the competition that they played. Look at Detroit. They've played KC, Seattle, Atlanta, comparable opponents there. But you look at Green Bay, who they played. They played Chicago. Atlanta, flat. And then, of course, New Orleans, they're flat too, that we found out last week. And then I know both teams are dealing with injuries, but I think the Green Bay side is a little bit more pertinent on this one. We got to talk about Aaron Jones. Still questionable on this one. I'm not seeing him listed as out currently. But I know there's guys that are out on the offensive line for Green Bay. You got David Bakhtiari going on the IR. Eldon Jenkins not going to be playing in this game, of course. And on the defensive side, one of their top tacklers, Devondre Campbell, not going to be playing in this game as well. He's their 3rd best tackler on the team. Last time these two teams met, Detroit did win 26-16 as 5-point road dogs, and they're sitting here as 2-point favorites. They did win both contests last year as a dog. But now you're seeing the line flip virtually 7 points from year 1 to year 2. And Detroit just owns the history between these teams. They absolutely own the Packers. 10-2 against the spread versus Green Bay dating back to 2017. And also Detroit 10-2 against the spread versus divisional opponents dating back to 2021. They were 6-0 against the spread versus divisional opponents last year, dominating in their division. So you got the history versus divisional opponents. You have a Detroit team that's much more healthy, stronger, got the momentum going on this one, where Green Bay is basically a paper tiger, in my opinion, sitting here at 2-1. I don't think this is a good team at all with Jordan Love. Give me Detroit on this one. I love him at -1.5, 2 units special for me.
Yeah, taking a breath. A lot to discuss in this game. And I found myself very, very impressed with the analysis that was available here. Of course, this is divisional football, so we are data abundant. But I want to jump off of what Guns mentioned and go back to what we said last week, where I truly believe when you start to see a little bit of data accumulate in NFL football, what you really want to do is you want to find teams that are unsustainable, either far too hot or far too cold. Green Bay, without a shadow of a doubt, as Guns mentioned, a paper tiger, 3-0 ATS against the closing line. I'll call it one thing that I like to call it fool's gold. Guns mentioned the backdoor last week. I'll talk about that in a second, but go back to week 1. I took a loss. I thought the Bears were going to hammer them. We soon learned the Bears are the most dysfunctional franchise in the sport early season 2023. So let that be. But one statistical point, an 18-point win, the Bears actually had more time of possession in that game and more first downs, turnovers, 4-and-outs, field goals, an anomaly. Week 2, as Guns mentioned, tight loss at Atlanta. However, outgained in that game, 446 to 224. When your opponent has 4.5 football fields and you only have 2.25, you shouldn't be losing the game by 1 point. Another anomaly cover. And of course, last week, jumping off of what Guns said, one thing that I thought was absolutely fascinating, of course, Derek Carr getting hurt in the middle of the game, just an absolute egregious spot, just a luck box factor for Green Bay. However, I think psychologically, something that I picked up on, which really fascinated me, the New Orleans defense stopped playing after Derek Carr got hurt. And this is pure psychology, and to me, it's incredibly interesting. So the offense is supposed to not perform with Jameis Winston, fine. But hey, guys, on defense, you're your own unit. Keep it together. No, not even close. Before the Carr injury, only 52 yards against. Carr gets hurt, they stop playing. 288 yards against, mostly in the fourth quarter. 12 for 82 downs, Green Bay, 7 for 46 field goal, 7 for 80 TD, and 9 for 80 TD. And I think more importantly, Guns, you covered it in the Circa, and that's obviously amazing. However, people getting crushed on the final line, throughout all this nonsense, New Orleans still missed a 46-yard field goal. After all the crap, they still could have covered the game. And really, in contemporary football, that's a chip shot, and they still missed. So the point here is Green Bay at 3-0 ATS is outrageous stuff. And if you start to go to the other side of this game, as Guns mentioned, Detroit is purely a buy unit. And Detroit is showing long-term upward movement in the law of averages. Go back to late 2020. In a 28-game sample, straight up, they were 4-23-1. Since they are 10-4. And we talked about it early last year. They're starting to see the ball go in the hoop, per se. You see it happen once. You believe you can do it. Tight losses become tight wins. This coach, Dan Campbell, is just a unit energy-wise in the locker room. And speaking of the Detroit ATS efficiency, this team is legitimate on the road and I think sustainable. 5-1 ATS in their last 6, 3-0 ATS on the road in division last year, did win in Green Bay, as Guns mentioned. And we want to talk line functionality here for a second. This is clean living on the line. Go back to last year, week 9, it was 11-6. Green Bay did take a loss in Detroit, 15-9. Green Bay was laying 3.5 points on the road. When you go from road to home in the division, same year, you should come up 3 points in strength for neutrality. It was actually short. It was Green Bay minus 3.5 at home in week 18. And here's the crucial point and the true beauty of line functionality. Week 18, Aaron Rodgers' last game. January 8th, freezing cold Lambeau. Outside, revenge game within the season, and playoff desperation for the Packers. Every single person I know took the Packers that week, and I said on record, I don't care about all this. Books are telling you a short number. They're telling you Detroit's going to cover this game, And guess what, guys? The line stood above every power narrative you could ever think of in this freaking world. And Detroit did win the game. So now, off of this, the upward movement is supposed to continue. Green Bay -3.5. We open up at -1.5 here. We're getting northward steam. We're getting strong steam. And one final point here, and before we talk about the total briefly, Guns mentioned Detroit has owned this team ATS dating back to the Stafford years. Zoom out a little bit further, because I really do want to zoom out in terms of the generational upward movement here that should continue for Detroit. Since Brett Favre's first appearance, it was November 1st, 1992. The Gun had not moved to Vegas yet. I had not moved to New York yet. Michael Jordan had only won 2 titles, but it was Brett Favre's first start coming out of the University of Southern Mississippi. And he did win the game. And Green Bay proceeded to go 45-20 straight up in the last 65 games. So this is Leatherhead football dating back to 1930, when one team dominates for 65 games over 30 years because you had a legendary quarterback, Brett Favre, backed up by another legendary quarterback. This could reverse in Detroit's favor for the next 25 years. So the fact that they won both last year does not give any merit whatsoever to the revenge angle from Green Bay. All boxes checked, numbers and narratives. We are on this on the money line posted 4 days ago at -115. That is -135 now. Sharp stuff across the board. Guns, comments on the total?
Yeah, I mean, it's sitting here at 45. Really hasn't moved at all. Seeing the market really staying away from the over on this one. I think probably the take that I would have on this one is a little bit lean towards the over on this one. I mean, Detroit kind of coming to this zone comfortable, going on the road, going against the defense that's really suspect in my opinion. I think if anything, with the teams that Green Bay has faced, Chicago, Atlanta, New Orleans, not great offensive teams, not teams that can really let up the scoreboard. However, when you look at Detroit can put up the points on this one. So if you think it's a Detroit play, you think they're going to absolutely dominate the game. I think this is more a take towards the overplay for a full domination, and then see if Green Bay can actually get the 10 to 14 points that you need to actually get over the top on this one. But really, I'm not touching this total at all. I'm focused more on the side. I think this is an elite, strong Detroit play. I know a lot of people in the chat are saying, oh, okay, Watson is back and Jones is back. The key point on this one, they're missing the left side of their offensive line. They're going with guys that are backups. That is not ideal for a quarterback that is trying to still learn the game. The pressure will get on him. They will have fits, and he will make mistakes. That's usually what happens with young quarterbacks. I usually am a little bit more attentive to, is the offensive line healthy? Is the defensive pass rush healthy? More of the key playmakers on this one, which I don't believe Jones and Watson are. But that I really on the take on the total. No play for me on this one, but lean towards the over.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tight. Ultimately, if you go back to last year, the 2 games were incredibly low, obviously 15-9 and 20-16. Books are moving the number against it, which is usually suggesting a really tight line. I think you're probably gambling on this. I do want to make a point, though, on this. You go back to last year, and I see guys in the chat talking about all sorts of roster moves and all this stuff, and we totally understand that, of course. But when you go back to last year and you see Aaron Rodgers in his final season only scoring 9 points on the road and 16 at home, I mean, Jordan Love is unequivocally not better than Aaron Rodgers, even in his final season. So I don't foresee a whole lot of offensive output coming from Green Bay tonight. I think Detroit has an improved defensive roster. Of course, last year, you guys remember in Hard Knocks, very well documented, getting Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan, bunch of young guys. But I think just a great coaching staff over there. And I do want to make a comment on that, just going back to the Hard Knocks last year. I mean, I got behind the emotional morale of this group. First of all, as I mentioned, Dan Campbell, just an absolute unit emotionally. I think he can motivate anybody on the planet to get off their ass and go work out. But this is just a great coaching staff. They compete harder. They have a chip on their shoulder. They have an emotional edge, just so far beyond what LaFleur and the Green Bay coaching staff is putting forth. And one final point on this, and I want to make this comment, and this is the symmetry of the robotic nature of pro sports and the mirror effect This is stuff that I look at that it really has nothing to do with Green Bay and Detroit. But if you actually look at what Green Bay is doing this year, they opened up with a road blowout in the division. Then they went road out of the division and lost by 1 point. So what is the opposite of road outside of the division? Home outside of the division. Exact mirror. 1 point loss road, 1 point win home. Dead mirror. What's the mirror of a road blowout in the division? A home blowout against in the division. So this is really kind of universal energy type stuff. This in the mirror effect is actually speaking to a blowout. And it's a blowout line. It's a blowout line. When you're laying 3.5 juiced up to 5, and then the next year you're a dog juiced up the other direction, that's significant margin in divisional football in 2023 pro ball. So we love this play. We're on it for 1 unit official. It is an opportunity to dominate. We will be out here tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern. The Shark of the Gun Knowledge for College, firing off week 5. Excited for it. We appreciate you guys immensely in the chat. Best of luck with your wagers tonight. Less than 1 hour till kick. Throwing it back to the gun for some final words. All the top energy in the world. Sharky Waters Nation, 9 words of lifestyle. Ride the wave we got out of the water. Guns picks. Close them out with some words, and let's dominate.
Brandon said it best himself. Make sure you hit the like button, folks. You're watching us. We're giving you sharp information. We're giving you detailed information, and we're doing it out of the kindness of our hearts for the grand total price of $0. So if you want to support us, you hit the like button, you hit the subscribe button, and you hit the bell, and that's what keeps us spreading the wealth to the rest of the community, the nation themselves here on the Sharky Waters Nation channel. But thanks for joining us. Make sure you catch us out Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be also giving out some Friday picks, and I think there's going to be some alignment on that as well. We'll be talking a little bit of Saturday, and then, of course, Saturday mornings with The Gun joining me 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to have a very special surprise guest on that one as well. So make sure you go check that out, and I'll, of course, be dropping more plays on Saturday mornings. And of course, Sunday, you know what we do. NFL Circa Millions with the Shark, the Gun, and the Odds Fellow Saturday mornings as well. So much content coming out of this channel, right out of your ears, cuz. And make sure you join us for all of those. So thanks for joining us. Let's cash some tickets today. Let's dominate the board. And as always, let's keep dancing.